From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. More Idaho Matters right now. For many of our kids, screens are a normal part of everyday life. In fact, on average, teens are spending 4 hours or more a day on digital devices. And according to a report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, this kind of excessive screen time can lead to greater chances of depression and anxiety, which is an issue that the upcoming More Social, Less Media Summit plans to tackle. So joining us now to talk more about the event are Alexis Morgan, president of Idaho PTA, and Dr. Megan Smith, an associate professor at Boise State University and the founder and director of Communities for Youth. I want to welcome both of you to the program.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So Alexis, let me begin the conversation with you. Tell us a little bit about what inspired this event.
Yeah, so a year ago, I was traveling around the state meeting with parents, and one of their top concerns was technology in their children's lives. And so I took that and I thought, I have read a book. It's called The Anxious Generation. And I think that we can do something about that in the state of Idaho. And so that's really kind of like where the idea started from, was really like listening to parents and hearing from them about what their top concerns were for their kids.
And Megan, you've talked on our program before about the Communities for Youth and the fact that it does an annual survey of youth well-being. But for folks who don't know about this, can you talk to us a bit about what you're seeing when it comes to the mental health of our kids here in Idaho specifically?
Sure. Yeah. And Communities for Youth is focused on upstream prevention, which is why we're excited to participate in this event that is looking at how do we help families and parents really work on that prevention and that promotion for young people. So thinking about positive protective factors. And one thing that we're seeing in the survey is definitely social media. Spent on social media is related to outcomes that you could imagine, like depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation even. And even over and above that, there are protective factors that are mentioned both in the Anxious Generation and also seen in our survey around things like the importance of connection. And so I really love the idea of more social, less media. And that's the name of this event and why Communities for Youth is a supporter of such a thing.
And Megan, can we talk a little bit about how social media does impact certain kids? And I mean, I'll take mine for an example. I have one kiddo who he's got social media. He's almost 17, doesn't really use it, doesn't really engage with it that much, doesn't frankly really care. Spends time with his friends. But then I have a 13-year-old who is desperate to have social media. He also tends to be anxious, and he wants to have friends over all the time. But we have absolutely not allowed him to have social media, nor will we allow him to have it. And our oldest only has one type of social media. And I ask this question because I don't think one size fits all for every kiddo. And I think I have a 13-year-old that's very typical of a lot of kids, right? Where it's fighting this battle of this isn't good for you, so we are not going to allow you to have it. You can be as mad at us as you want to be, but this is not good for you. Is that a right approach to this? And how much do we have to know really our children, if that makes sense?
Right. And I think what you're doing is getting at the heart of why Alexis created this event, really, is that there is a lot that's complex about this issue and a lot that's unknown. And so you're absolutely correct. The advice on social media, for instance, would be very idiosyncratic to the family, right? And so I like to tell people about protective factors because if you think of a young person who has a family that's very supportive of them, if they have a problem, for instance, they can come talk to that family. If they go to school and they have friends that are very supportive of them, and then let's say they go on social media and someone calls them like an idiot, right? That person is going to feel a lot of protection. Their first response is probably going to be something like, I'm not an idiot, because they know that through their family and their peers and all that protection around them. Imagine the opposite experience where a kid doesn't have those protective factors. Maybe they're bullied at school and they go home and experience sort of lack of support or family violence or neglect. That person, if someone on the social media would say you're an idiot, that person's risk in that social media environment is going to be a lot different. But really, I'd love for Alexis to say more about the event, because I think the purpose of the event is really to be a space for parents to learn more and think more about this and actually to kind of lean on each other.
So yeah, Alexis, let's talk about that because I think that this is at least how I feel as a parent, right? Like we're the first generation of parents. They're really in the trenches with social media. And it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? And as I mentioned, then you have children who are completely different. And I think there's this idea that if we allow social media or we allow electronics in our home, that we're doing something wrong. And at the same time, technology is also in all of our schools. Like my children go to schools where everything's on their computers, on their laptops, right? It's technology. So we also have to know how to incorporate technology into their lives.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So ultimately, like, I think one of the most important things, and this is like a value for Idaho PTA, is that we have an informed public. We want parents to be, have plenty of information to be able to make good decisions for their kids, like what's going on, what's best for their kids in their homes. And so that's one of the reasons that like we're putting on this event, is so that parents can be aware of what kids are accessing on technology, because I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. I kind of know firsthand from this past legislative session, and working with a couple of other experts, that those devices that our kids used, like from their schools, they're able to access different things that it's important for parents to be aware of. So we want people to be armed with good information and then what to do with that information. And that's why at this event, we have different speakers. So we have a digital safety expert coming in to talk about the types of things that that kids can access on any type of technology. It's not just social media, it's just all of the things that they can get a hold of on there. And then we have a former school counselor coming in to talk about some data in regards to technology and maybe some other types of devices that are alternatives to smartphones. And then we have Dr. Megan Smith, and I'm so excited that she's a part of this because she focuses so much on upstream prevention. And so it's like, okay, we have all this information. What can we do as parents to help guide our children through this phase of life? Because to your point, we have not experienced this in a way as teenagers that our teenagers and our young kids are experiencing right now.
Well, and then Alexis, I go back.
Yeah,
I was going to say that and I go back to that point, right? That it's like, what do we do with that knowledge and information, right? And how then do we look at, each child in our home and say, okay, this may fit you, but this may not fit this other kiddo, right? And so will there be conversation about that too? And really support for parents, as Megan mentioned, because I think a lot of times, again, we don't know if we're doing the right thing.
Right. That's exactly right. So we have like a slate of speakers that are going to be in the auditorium. And then we also have workshop spaces. So in that workshop space, parents will be able to ask their questions and interact with other parents in that space. And then we also, this event's being held at Eagle High School. So we're utilizing the cafeteria as a vendor space. So parents can walk through, talk to different vendors who are in this space of alternatives to smartphones, different technology to help parents navigate how to help their kids be smart with tech. And through that space, there's also going to be organizations that are geared towards providing more social experiences for kids. So in all of that space, parents are going to have an opportunity to interact with each other and also have information then that they can take to engage with not just their families, but their kids' parents and your peer groups. Because one of the things that's really spoken about in the book, The Anxious Generation, is that it's not just families. And this is what part of Megan's work too. It needs to be a community effort. And this is why we're taking it so big and inviting all of the Treasure Valley to come and participate in this. This is kind of a first ever event for the Treasure Valley to bring in these types of speakers to focus on this type of thing, because Idaho PTA is here to say this is something that is impacting our kids now. We know it's going to continue impacting our kids, and we want to engage our entire community on how we can address these things as parents as schools and as communities.
Well, and before I let you go, I have to say, Alexis, it was in my son's high school's newsletter last week. So
Yay,
it was
that's
great
wonderful
to see.
to hear.
It was great to see that in there. So very quickly, before I let both of you go, when is the More Social, Less Media Summit?
Saturday, April 26th from 12 to 4 p.m. at Eagle High School. It's free. There's going to be some food truck vendors there as well. And people can go get information at idahopta.org under the events tab. And it's also being shared on social media at Idaho PTA.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for your time. We've been talking with Alexis Morgan, president of Idaho PTA, and Dr. Megan Smith, an associate professor at Boise State University and the founder and director of Communities for Youth, talking about the upcoming More Social, Less Media Summit. You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudet.